And if anyone has any witnesses, the rule has been invoked, so make sure that if you have witnesses that they're not in the courtroom. Any witnesses, Mr. Cox? All right, and they're still lined up?
Yes, they're still lined up.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So State, are you ready to bring the jurors in?
Well, Judge,
Are
I did
they-
tell them that we give them time to,
Okay,
I think they would like to be here.
all right. All right, State, is that everyone?
Nope, no, ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am, that is our.
all right. Can you let Deputy Lawyer know the jurors can come in? Yes, they can, yes.
All right, for the jury.
Oh, no, please be seated. We're standing for you all. All right, everyone, please be seated. All right. State,
True bill of indictment. In the name and by authority of the state of Texas, the grand jury of Bexar County, state of Texas, duly organized and handled and sworn as such at the March term AD 2022 of the 175th Judicial District Court of said county, in said court at said term, to present in and to said court that in the county and state aforesaid and anterior to the presentment of this indictment. Count 1, paragraph A. On or about 28th day of February 2022, Joseph Dale Harris did intentionally and knowingly cause the death of an individual, namely Isaiah Roscoe, hereinafter referred to as complainant, by shooting the complainant with a deadly weapon, namely a firearm. Paragraph B. And on or about the 28th day of February 2022, Joseph Dale Harris, with intent to cause serious bodily injury to an individual, namely Isaiah Roscoe, hereinafter referred to as complainant, did commit an act clearly dangerous to human life that caused the death of Isaiah Roscoe by shooting the complainant with a deadly weapon, namely a firearm, against the peace and dignity of the state.
all right, Mr. Harris, to that, how do you plea?
Not guilty, Your Honor.
All right, you may be seated. State, do you have any opening statements?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you what the state intends to prove up in the next few days or following days. One, on February 28th, 2022, at roughly 11:30 a.m., so in the morning, it's daylight. Actually a short walk from here, about 2 blocks away from here, by the International Building by a Via bus stop, is where Joseph Harris shot 16 times at an individual, shooting him in the back numerous times. And then the last shot going directly to his head as he lay on the ground with his hand up. The fact is that what you're going to see, you're going to actually see him shoot Isaiah Orozco. You're going to see it. You're going to see the approach. You're going to see the after. You're going to see all that because there's actually a video of it. A Via bus happened to pull up at the right time at this bus stop, 5:13 to be exact. The bus. When the bus pulls up, Isaiah Orozco is standing there, facing the defendant. And he's standing there. You're going to see Orozco pull out a gun at one point as he's backing away out of his pocket. You're going to see the defendant approaching him, sees the gun, and then backs off. You're going to see Isaiah put the gun back in his pocket. You're going to see hand signals. You're going to see that Isaiah is saying he's leaving. And not only is he leaving, he turns around and walks away. And when he's walking away, this man right here pulls out his gun, cocks it, and runs after him, shooting 16 times in the middle of the day, in the middle of these streets of San Antonio, striking him in the back several times. Isaiah goes down, is on the ground, pausing the shots after the 15th shot. You're going to hear that. You know why? Because there's audio to that video. This man walks up, shoots him one more time directly through the head. He just calmly puts the gun back in his holster, turns around, and walks back to the bus stop, gives a fist bump to his buddy that's at the bus stop. I'm going to tell you, Isaiah wasn't perfect that day. He did have a gun on him legally. He was 21 years old. He had a gun in his pocket. The defendant had a gun on him legally. But one person decided to be the bigger person that day and walk away, turn the other cheek. That cost him his life. That evidence will show that this man murdered, shot another man in the middle of on the side of the street in broad daylight, in front of witnesses, and in front of the best witness that you're going to see is a video that you can see, and you're going to be able to hear the shots. Thank you.
Defense. All right, state, you may call your first witness.
State calls Officer Rodolfo Robles, Your Honor.
All right, can you raise your right hand for me? Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, if you'll have a seat, be sure to keep your voice up so the members of the jury can hear and also the court reporter can hear. If you'll state your name for the record and spell it, please.
Rodolfo Robles, Rodolfo, last name is Robles, Robles.
State.
Thank you, Your Honor. Officer, obviously you're not wearing a uniform right
Yes, sir.
now. In fact, is that a Valero?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You don't work at Valero, do you?
No, this is my wife's company,
Okay, all right. Well, can you please tell the jury who you work for?
San Antonio Park Police.
And how long have you worked with San Antonio Park Police?
About 11 years now.
11 years, and back in 2022, that would have been about 10 years?
Yes,
About a
sir.
year ago?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And so, you have to go through particular training to become a police officer,
Yes.
and are you a certified Texas peace officer?
Yes, I am.
And so you went through that training and you have a roughly now 11 years of experience.
Yes, sir.
What are your current duties as a police officer?
Current duties, bike patrol. I patrol downtown. I patrol the trails.
And so that's like taking care of downtown Riverwalk and then also trails of of downtown?
Yes.
Okay. Let's go ahead and jump right in and the reason that you're here. Back on February 28th, 2022, were you dispatched to a shooting scene?
Yes, I was.
Will you tell the jury, what initially alerted you to this shooting scene?
I was maybe about a block and a half away. Heard some shots fired. Heard over the radio dispatch say that there's been shots fired at I believe it was 200 South St. Mary's, a block and a half from where I was at the park doing a patrol by. As soon as I heard the shots, I started heading that way on my bike. As dispatch was giving out a address and description of the individuals.
And so did you make your way to that scene?
Yes, I did.
And when you arrived at the scene, can you just generally tell the jury what you saw?
As soon as I arrived on the scene, I saw the white male on the floor bleeding from, I believe, his head area. Yeah, it's exactly what I saw when I got there.
And to be fair, is there a body cam? Did you have a body cam that day?
Yes,
Okay, and so your body cam would show the depictions of everything that happened that day from your perspective of, it's on your chest, is that right?
yes.
Okay. But let me just go through, after you arrived, you saw the individual on the ground, then what did you do at that point?
Saw the individual on the ground. I was looking straight ahead, which is south direction. I saw a couple people. I yelled out, like my report states, I yelled out to anyone that would hear me. Does anyone know who shot the victim? Who's the shooter? Believe Mr. Harris said, I'm the shooter. I shot him. I said, okay, I drew my city issued weapon at that point. Mr. Harris complied with the orders to put his hands in the air. I told him to get down on the ground, arms spread. He complied. I then walked up to him with a couple other officers, removed his weapon from his waistband, which he said he had it down in his waistband, cleared the weapon. Then he was handcuffed. Yeah, that's about it.
Okay. And so he was cooperative with you,
Yes,
and at that point, did you handcuffed him, I believe you just stated, and you relieved him of his firearm?
yes.
Do you remember where the firearm was at on his body?
Right side waistband, I believe so. Yeah.
Right here, Coach?
Yes.
I'm going to show you what's been marked state exhibit number 1, 2, and 3. Can you just go through those and tell me when you're done? And have you been able to review those?
Yes,
And are these still photos from a body cam?
yes,
And are these still photos from a body cam of yours?
yes.
Each one of them?
Yes, it looked like. Yep.
And these are from the scene that day, and they fairly and accurately represent that scene that day? Your Honor, we'd like to enter state exhibit number 1, 2, and 3. Will the tender to defense for any objections?
Yes. Oh, and I'm sorry. State Defense. All right, state, you may proceed. State exhibits, I'm sorry, states exhibits 1, 2, and 3 are admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. And may I approach again, Your Honor?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Thank you talking.
Well, thank you. State exhibit number 1, what does that show, sir?
It shows, Mr. Harris lying on his side,
Okay,
handcuffed.
and that's on the street, is that correct?
Yes.
And why is he handcuffed?
He's handcuffed because he's, being detained for a possible crime that he committed.
Okay, well, I mean, because what did he say to you right before you handcuffed him?
That'll be overruled.
What did he say to you right before you handcuffed him?
He said, I shot him.
Okay, thank you. State exhibit number 2, what does that show?
Shows Mr. Harris lying on his side, with his shirt up and his weapon showing.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I don't mean to overtalk you, and the court order looked at me just now and got mad at me. So, sorry, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
Shows him lying on his side with his shirt up and showing his weapon.
And then state exhibit number 3,
It shows me, grabbing the weapon from his waistband.
Your Honor, may I publish to the jury?
Yes.
Now, just to ask you, this location, is it in Bexar County, Texas?
Yes,
And this happened on February 28, 2022?
Yes.
Thank you. Once you detain the individual and you have the weapon, what do you do at that point with the weapon?
At that point, I believe I just make it safe. I clear it.
What does that mean? Can you explain it to the jury, please?
Clear the weapon is just basically empty the magazine. If there's a magazine, racking the slide a couple times to make sure there's nothing in the chamber.
And was there anything in the chamber?
I believe there was one in the chamber.
One in the chamber, what does that one mean?
Means when I racked the slide, one bullet came out of the chamber.
And a bullet, can you just describe, I mean, I don't know if the jury is all aware of what a bullet is. Can you just describe to what that is?
A bullet is exactly what a bullet is. It
Okay.
to shoot someone and kill someone.
Well, I mean, a bullet is the actual part that comes out of the gun.
Yes.
Okay.
Bleeding.
Sustained,
I'll move on.
sustained.
Thank you. Good. All right, so then. You said you made it safe. Was there any other bullets? In the, what do you call it, the magazine?
Magazine?
Was there any in there? Do you recall?
I do not recall.
And. I'll show you what's marked state exhibit number 4 and number 5. Is that the same, what does that show to you?
It shows a weapon.
And in that picture, is that the weapon that you also received from the defendant?
Yes.
Objection, witness testifying.
Sustained.
Now, did you speak with you spoke with the defendant, is that correct?
Yes.
And then did you speak to anybody else at the scene?
I believe I spoke with maybe a witness or two briefly.
Would that be depicted on your body cam?
It should be.
Can you approach again, Rob?
Yes.
I'll show you what's in mark state exhibit number 6. Can you identify that?
Looks like a DVD of my body camera.
And do you have any markings on there that you can identify personally?
That I wrote on there.
You actually wrote on, what did you write on there?
Name, badge number, date.
Okay, thank you. And is this, what is this,
It's of my body camera footage of the date.
and did you review this body cam?
I've seen it, yes.
And is it altered in any way?
No,
Well, does it have audio?
I don't believe that one has audio.
No audio. The
No.
original one had audio, is that correct?
Yes.
But due to limitations, we had to stricken the audio, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you view this fairly and accurately represents that scene that day from your body cam.
Yes.
Your Honor, we'll move to interstate exhibit number 6. We'll tender to defense for any objections.
Yes. Is that minute?
And Judge, for state exhibit number 6, I just disclosed to defense counsel that we have it on our laptops, the exact same copy for purposes of just streaming it, or rather getting it to the jury. We'd ask that we can play it from our computer. That is a copy of state exhibit number 6.
And there's no objection. Is that correct?
Correct. On the same as that.
All right, yes, you may.
Thank you, Judge. And may we publish to the jury?
Yes,
But not waiving any other objections that was made.
yes. No other objections made by the defense will be waived.
And officer, this is obviously, well, tell me what this is.
This looks like my body camera footage at Main Plaza Park on Commerce Street. Now heard the gunshots. Turned on my body cam.
Now, is this individual that you were detaining
Yes,
the same one that was in state exhibit number 1, 2, and 3?
yes.
And is this the same individual that you detained
Yes,
that is on 11:29 and 10 seconds?
yes.
At this point, what are y'all doing on the scene?
At this point, looking for any witnesses and asking around questions, maybe there's any more suspects.
are you, I guess, is your responsibilities to investigate the whole scene, or is that somebody else's, duty?
That would be someone else's duty.
Like who?
Follow-up units, detectives.
Detectives or follow-up units?
Mhm.
We're gonna pause it at 11:32 and 13 seconds. And for time, period here, you stayed at the scene. Do you remember how long you were at the scene?
I want to say maybe 30 to 45 minutes.
And did you do anything else at the scene other than what we see on camera?
I don't believe so.
And you collected the gun at that one point. What, do you remember what you did with the gun?
I believe I turned it over to another officer.
And again, just to reiterate, did the defendant say to you why he shot the person that was shot?
Objection. To the point, if
Oh, you all can remain seated with your objection because it makes it easier for the court reporter to can hear.
if the prosecution is going to go into questioning when statements at this point, and my client appears to be custody, then the proper foundations.
All right. State, you want to lay the foundation?
I'll move. Thank you. And to talk about the other witnesses that were at the scene, I want to make sure to be clear, did you speak with any other witness? I mean, well, one, did you write down anybody's names or addresses or anything in your report?
I did not.
Is there some other officer that was responsible for those duties?
Yes.
We'll pass it, Mr. Young.
All right, defense.
Now, also, you, is your testimony that you were the first officer on the scene?
Yes.
Now, a few months ago, when we're looking at the video, I believe you testified earlier that you approached the scene and you asked a question, correct?
Yes.
And you said somebody said something to you, and you said you believe it was my mind.
Yes.
Now, when you say you believe it was, are you positive or you think that maybe
I'm positive it was him.
it's positive? Now, when you approached the scene, was my class, was he standing? Was he lying on the ground? Was he running, walking? What was he?
He was standing.
He was standing?
Yes.
Did you order him at that point, as soon as you see him, did you give him any order?
Yes.
So when you say what, as soon as you saw him, as you coming up towards, you gave him an order, correct?
Yes.
You recall what order you did?
if he can put his hands up in the air.
I may just get the video, I need to bring it back.
Sure.
Okay, can we stop at this point? Okay, so at this point, so you're looking at the video. Are you, at this point, are you saying anything to my client at that point?
Yes,
Oh, so you're yelling towards him.
yes.
So at that point, what do you yell? What do you say? Yeah.
Who shot the victim?
Okay. Now, at that point on the video, can you see my client?
Yes,
Okay. So when you, on that particular still with the camera now, do you notice anything about his hands? My client?
they're up in the air.
They're up in the air. Now, did you, prior to actually, like, when you yelled to him, did you yell to him to put his hands up in the air?
I believe simultaneously, as I was approaching, I was yelling. As soon as I saw the victim on the ground, that's when I yelled, "Who's the shooter?" He said, "I am." I think he said, he put his hands in the air as I was saying, "Get your hands in the air." It was almost at the same time.
Okay, so your testimony now is that you recall specifically telling my client to put his hands in. Or were they already up in?
I believe I was asked, what did I say? So I answered to what I had said.
Okay. Do you recall exactly? Because you keep saying you believe. Do you remember exactly how?
I remember exactly.
Okay. So my question to you again. Did you tell him to put his hands up in the air, or was his hands already up in?
I believe they happened at the same time. Well, they did happen at the same time.
Okay. So your testimony is that when you approach and his hands being up in the air is based on a response to something that you said to him?
If we had the audio version, it would probably get me saying, "Put your hands in the air." I think when he saw me, he started to put his hands in the air also.
Now, you've had a chance to review the video, correct?
Yes,
So you had a chance to review the audio portion, correct?
been a couple weeks.
Oh, but you did have a chance to review it,
Yes.
correct? Now, you wrote a report, correct? You wrote a police report,
I wrote a supplement report.
or supplemental. And you were there about, how long, 45 minutes, you said, that's likely,
I believe 30 to 45 minutes.
30, 45. Okay. And that supplemental you wrote, other than that supplemental, did you write any other?
No,
you had a chance, have you had a chance to look at the supplemental report that you wrote?
Yes,
Okay. It's about what, paragraph?
yes,
Do you have a copy of it?
yes.
That works with it.
Yes.
Now, sir, I show you with the mark as defendants, defense one. And I just want you to look at what's marked as defense one and see whether or not it's an exact copy of your report.
You're saying if these are the same?
Sure, whether they're the same.
Oh, okay. Yes, they look like it.
And you've had a chance, like you said, not only to view the videotape with the audio, you also had a chance to review defendant's exhibit number one. Correct?
Yes, it's been a couple weeks since I've reviewed the,
Oh,
with the audio. I've seen this one a lot more.
but you, in terms of your report, you had a chance to review that, correct?
To review my report?
Yeah.
Yes.
You need to look at it now to refresh your recollection of anything.
No, I have it right here.
Okay, yeah, right. Now. You indicated just a few minutes ago that you, as you approached, as you approached the area, saw my client, that you mentioned or stated to him words effective of raising your hands at the same time he was raising his hand. Is that, did you say anything like that or similar to that?
Yes.
Now, if you look at your report, and when you get to the point that suggests that it's the sequence of how it happened, let me know. Look up. So when you get that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Now. It is true that your report doesn't support that version that you just testified.
To my recollection, if we watched the video with some audio, it would say, it would hear me saying, get your hands up or put your hands up, as he complied. Like I said earlier, he complied with every command and had his hands up.
Now, is it fair to say that you said you were a police officer how long?
11 years.
11 years. Now, and you've gone through the academy, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Part of going to the academy is that I believe you get training courses in the academy about writing police report, correct?
Yes.
And what's the purpose for writing a police?
Purpose of writing a police report.
Yeah, what is the purpose in
You
the
gotta have-
academy when you're training? What's the purpose for writing a police?
To have a log of what happened.
Correct. And part of that training is that because you may have to rely on that report at a later date. Say if you're gonna testify or try to recall events that have happened, correct? Correct?
Yes,
And a part of your training is that you try to put as accurate as possible information and try to put information in the report as accurately as you possibly can, I would imagine.
yes,
Correct. So, would you agree that in your report, there's no mention of my client raising his hand? There's no.
no, it says that I instructed him to get on the ground and spread his arms out.
So the answer to my question is that, no, you didn't, based on your report, you didn't tell him to raise his hand.
Based on the supplement, that one sentence is not, it's not in there.
And this is your report, right?
This is my report.
Okay, now you said that you, a part of your job or your duties at that point, you were about 45 minutes. And you did somewhat of an investigation in terms of trying to locate witnesses. Did you try to locate any witnesses?
I assisted other officers in just asking around who witnessed it, but I mainly stayed next to Mr. Harris.
So is that a yes or no? My question. Did you make contact with any witnesses?
By asking if they saw anything, and sending another officer to, as officers arrive on scene, I'm the only one, I'm the main officer there, the first officer. I send the officer to any witnesses that say I saw something or are they willing to talk to us.
So it's fair to say that you didn't contact or approach any witnesses, or did? While you're out there for 45
No, I'm not going to approach any, I'm not going to leave Mr. Harris' side, no.
So in terms of contacting any witnesses, you did.
No,
So you didn't take any names or anything?
No.
Now, you did testify that you removed the weapon from my client, correct?
yes,
And it's a handle, correct?
yes.
Now, so you ride, you ask a question, who's the shooter? You place my client into custody right away, right?
Yes,
And you did that, it's fair to say that you didn't know what led up to the shooting, even, correct?
no,
You can't testify whether our client was being robbed or assaulted, because you didn't see what led up to the shooting, correct?
correct,
So at this point, somebody shot. Somebody shot, you get there, somebody claimed that they did the shooting. So automatically you put the shooter in custody.
yes,
And it's fair to say that you didn't have to chase my client half a block at all. You didn't have to run after and catch him.
no,
I believe you said that he cooperated with, right?
yes,
State? Yes.
Exhibit number 7.
Okay,
Can you identify that?
yes,
And what is that?
picture of Mr. Harris.
And you keep on, as you say, Mr. Harris, I see that you look somewhere in the courtroom. Do you see Mr. Harris in the courtroom here today?
Yes,
Can you please just identify him and by pointing at him and identifying what he's wearing?
he said point at him,
Yes, sir.
the glasses, brown suit.
Thank you. And let the record reflect that the officer has identified Mr. Harris, the defendant in this case. And in this photo, is that fairly inaccurate to represent what the individual, Mr. Harris, looked like that day?
Yes,
Thank you. We'll move to interstate exhibit number 7. Your Honor, we'll tender to defense for any objections.
Who approached it?
Yes. Yes.
Also, is there an SAP number associated with this case?
yes,
What is that SAP number?
2204-2351.
204-2351?
Yes,
Thank you. And just to touch on your supplement. Were you the main officer handling this case as like the officer that was responsible for the duty of the main report?
no, I was not.
Were you the detective associated with this case that did the prosecution?
No, I was not.
And so I guess that word supplement comes out, supplement report. Can you describe to the jury what a supplement report is?
Supplementary report is just that's what it is. We got the main report, and if any other officers made the scene or done anything on the scene, they write a supplement report, which is just maybe a couple lines. It's generally smaller than going to be smaller than the main report. The main report's going to have everything in there.
And also something from the scene that we actually have on the street right now, the body worn cam. You spoke about an audio portion too. Everything that you can testify to is on that body worn cam. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, that's what it's shown.
Defense?
State 7, like,
Yes. Do you have state's exhibit number 7?
Number 7, I gave to the purpose of the jury on.
All right. I think it's making its way through the back room.
When it makes it. Right. Right, well.
Yes,
Approach.
yes.
Also with reference to state, exhibit number 7. Were you present when that, program was? Without-
Yes, you can approach.
No, I was not.
Do you know when it was?
I do not.
Do you know whether it was taken San Antonio or Dallas? Can you tell?
San Antonio.
Oh, well, you weren't there. Did you know it was taken in San Antonio?
Yes.
Oh. What time was it taken?
I wouldn't know.
What day?
According to policy, it would have to be taken.
Well, I'm not
Same
talking
day.
about policy. Did you see it being taken?
No, I didn't.
I'll back it.
State, yes.
No further questions from the state.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
Subject to recall.
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you cannot discuss your testimony with anyone. You cannot talk to anyone about this case. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. Do you understand?
Yes.
You are not to view anything about this case. Do you understand?
Yes.
All right, you may step down.
Okay.
State, call your next witness.
State calls Officer Carl Jackson.
Excuse me, if you'll leave the exhibits with the court reporter. All right, if you'll take a seat here, please. All right, do you need the glasses? The glasses, do you need those? Okay, all right, you can keep them. All right, can you raise your right hand?
Yes,
Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth, the nothing but the truth, so help you God?
yes.
All right, you can lower your hand. Make sure you keep your voice up so that the members of the jury can hear and the court reporter can hear. If you could state your name for the record and spell it, please.
Carl Jackson, CarlJackson.
State.
Officer Jackson, who do you currently work for?
San Antonio Park Police,
And how long have you worked for the San Antonio Park Police?
29 and a half years.
And what are your current duties with the Park Police?
Patrol the river, walk in, whatever is going on up on street level, protect and serve the public.
So mainly you're assigned to the downtown.
Yes,
And what type of training did it take to become a member of the Park Police?
you have to go to the law enforcement academy, training academy, get certified, and pass the state and state law test,
So
T
you're,
codes.
so you're a certified peace officer.
Yes,
Now, were you working on February 28th, 2022?
yes,
And were you called out to a shooting on that day?
yes,
And did you write a report regarding what happened that day?
yes,
Would it benefit you to have that report in front of you?
yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Approach, please.
Here you go, sir. If you can just make sure, please don't read from it directly, but if you need to refresh your recollection.
Okay.
Now, do you recall where did the shooting occur?
Yes,
Where was it?
200 South St. Mary's.
And were you far from the shooting when you were called out to the scene?
Distance wise I guess, walking. Yes, I was pretty far distance from that.
And were you equipped with body worn camera on that day?
Yes,
And are you trained in how to operate the body worn camera?
yes.
Your Honor, may I approach?
Yes.
Officer Jackson, I'm approaching with what's been marked as exhibit number 8. What am I holding?
A disc with my name on it and about Joseph Harris.
And have you had an opportunity to view what's on this disc?
Yes,
And did you make any markings on this disc after you watched it?
no.
And take a look, sir.
Oh, yes, yes, my name and the date, and my badge number.
And so, aside from the audio being redacted, is this a true and accurate copy of your body worn camera from that day?
Yes.
Your Honor, state what offer states exhibit number 8 in evidence.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a brief recess. 10 minutes. You've heard some evidence in this case. You're not allowed to start deliberating in your mind or with each other. You're not to do any investigation work. If you see anything, you're to ignore it. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, so I'll bring you back in 10 minutes. All right, everyone, please rise for the jurors. Everyone, please be seated. All right, state, you may proceed.
State Office Exhibit number 8A.
Any objection?
No, thanks.
All right, state's exhibit number 8A is admitted.
And Your Honor, permission to publish to the jury.
That will be granted.
Now, Officer Jackson, you mentioned earlier that you were walking over to the scene of the shooting.
Yes,
Do you recall, sir, where did the shooting occur?
200 South St. Mary's.
Now, Officer Jackson, were you the first officer on the scene?
No,
There were quite a few other officers there, right?
yes,
When you arrived, what did you see?
I saw the the victim lying on the ground, and then the other Mr. Harris was down further.
And what did you do after this moment?
Helped gather information and helped Mr. Harris up.
Did you stay by Mr. Harris for a short while or a little while? How long did you stay here?
For a little while.
And do you recall what was the SAPD number, case number here?
The case number is 2204-2351.
Now, besides staying with Mr. Harris, did you do anything else?
Yes, I was asking him what had happened, trying to get information from the time when what happened.
Did you talk to anyone else at the scene?
Yeah, some of the supervisors and the fire department.
But you didn't speak to any witnesses,
No, I didn't.
and you weren't there whenever the shooting happened.
No,
So you don't know what happened at
no,
that time.
no.
Pass the witness, Judge.
All right, defense.
Also, I believe you testified that you were some distance away when you got the call.
Yes,
You were still somewhere in the downtown area. Were you on bank patrol?
no, I was on foot patrol on the Riverwalk.
So to get to the location, from where you were when you got the radio message to the location, how long did it take you approximately?
Probably about 5 minutes at least.
Now, your testimony is that you did not personally talk to any of the witnesses, right?
Right.
Did you take custody of any of the or possible evidence that they have been at the scene?
No,
And you, it's fair to say you were never designated as a to do the investigation, like you, in order to detect, you didn't do anything, right?
say that again.
Well, in terms of, you weren't ever designated as like a lead investigator on this scene, right?
No.
Right?
State.
Nothing further from the state.
All right, is this witness excused or subject for recall?
So,
All right, the rule has been invoked. What that means is you can't discuss your testimony with anyone. The only persons you're allowed to speak to are attorneys for the state or the defense. You're not allowed to view anything. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you may step down. Thank you. State, call your next witness.
Yes, State calls Officer Will Silva.
All right, if you can raise your right hand for me, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you give will be the truth and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, you can have a seat. If you'll state your name for the record and spell it in keys, please keep your voice raised so that the members of the jury can hear in the court reporter.
Okay, Officer Joel Silva, it's Joel Silva.
State?
Thank you. May I proceed?
Yes.
Officer Silva, can you please just want to introduce yourself to the jury?
I'm a San Antonio police officer. I've been on for about 12 years here down on the downtown bike patrol unit.
And I'm just gonna go over your credentials rather quickly. Did you go to the police academy?
Yes, sir.
San Antonio police officer?
Yes, sir.
Are you Texas certified police officer?
Yes, sir.
And you're currently a police officer, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you work for SAB?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's talk about February 28, 2022. I'll slow down. Did you go to a scene of a shooting?
Yes, sir.
And where was that scene located?
It was located at the 200 block of South St. Mary's.
And is that here in Bear County, Texas?
Yes, sir.
And you, I asked you if it was a shooting. Was that a shooting scene?
Yes, sir.
And what does a shooting scene mean?
The call was for a shooting, shooting in progress. Not sure what other information you'd want from that.
You answered the question. The shooting scene, when you arrived at the scene, what did you see?
When I arrived on scene, an officer was working on Mr. Orozco, who was laid out on the street and bloody. So I began triaging him.
Okay, so you said Orozco, was that the, I guess, the individual that was shot at the scene?
objection, Judge. All would have to be based on hearsay.
All right.
Well, I'll rephrase.
All right.
Did Mr. Orozco have holes in it?
Objection, bleeding.
Sustained.
What condition was Mr. Orozco in?
Well, question yourself, could we approach it?
Would you like to take the witness on board here?
That's fine.
Okay.
Now, officer, you said that there was someone that was being attempted to on the scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you know who that person was?
I didn't know his name. I knew he was a,
Right, you didn't know who that person was.
no, sir.
So in terms of even a name, You learned that from somebody else, correct?
I learned it there on the scene. Yes, sir.
Right, from someone.
Yes, sir.
Uh, So in terms of question, the questions being asked to, well, yes, in personal knowledge, who it was. That's not, that hasn't even been introduced in the evidence yet. So the question itself is leading in the,
Oh, you can remain seated.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I know it's a habit. But it's just easier for the court reporter to hear. So your objection, counsel?
Oh, my objection is that the question itself is a leading question.
All right, state.
I'm just trying to let the officer explain what he saw at the scene.
All right.
And
So,
I mean, motion to limit, I can't refer to the individual as anything other than his name.
all right. So with regards to the individual at the scene, if this, is this the complainant, alleged to be the complainant?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right. If it's alleged to be the complainant, then I think the alleged complainant can be referred to as complainant.
Correct. And
So with regards to the objection as to the name of the alleged complainant, that is sustained.
thank you.
State, you may proceed.
For one, the individual at the scene was the alleged complainant. Is that who you saw on the ground bleeding
Yes, sir.
that had holes in them?
Yes, sir.
And when you, I believe you stated you gave, I'm rephrasing this, but administered aid to this complainant, the alleged complainant, is that correct, right?
Yes, sir.
And when you were at the scene, did you search the alleged complainant?
Yes, sir.
And when you searched the alleged complainant, did you find anything on him, like, well, just tell the jury what you found on him.
Yes, sir. So I was notified there was a possible gun on him. So I did a quick search of him and the gun was found on his person in his front right pocket.
I'm sorry, you stated, front right pocket,
Yes, sir.
okay. And what did you do with that gun? Did you leave it in the pocket or did you take it out?
No, sir. I retrieved the gun. I dropped the mag out of it and I cleared the chamber. The chamber did not have a bullet in it. So it was loaded with the mag that was fully loaded, but no round in the chamber.
So no round in the actual barrel of the gun, is that right?
Yes, sir.
And what type of gun was this? Can you tell the jury what type of gun?
It was a semi-automatic pistol.
Do you actually have the name of the gun and the make and the serial number?
Yes, sir. Glock 48 and the serial number, I believe, should be Bravo Victor Delta Whiskey 234.
And that was found on the alleged complainant
Yes, sir.
inside of his pocket.
Yes, sir.
And I'm sorry, which side?
Front right pocket.
And well, you say that, I'm sorry, you stated it earlier that you didn't have, there's no bullet in the chamber. What does that tell you?
It wasn't ready to fire. It was loaded, just not ready to fire.
And so what do you mean not ready to fire?
If you pulled the trigger, it would just go click. Nothing would happen.
So let me ask you, if I pulled out the gun with nothing in the chamber, semi-automatic, what would I have to do to make it where it is able to fire?
You'd have to pull the upper receiver back to chamber around.
Okay, the receiver back. And what do you mean by receiver?
The top portion of the firearm, you would have to slide it back.
Okay, slide it back.
Yep.
And what does that do with the weapon or the gun?
That would round a chamber around.
And I guess what we call the bullet
Yes, sir.
or the casing or whatever you might do.
Yes, sir.
And then after you slide it back and push it back or whatever it may be, it loads a bullet. And then what are you able to do at that point?
If you pull the trigger, it would fire that round.
So if this gun that was in this individual's pocket, the alleged complainant. If you would have grabbed that gun and pulled the trigger, what would have happened as it sat in his pocket?
Nothing would have happened.
So would you have had to pull the slide back and load it
Yes, sir.
to fire?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this is all, did you have a body cam on that day?
Yes, sir.
And is this all caught on your body cam?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Also, at the scene, after you checked this, did you ever identify the victim? I'm sorry, not the victim, the alleged complainant.
Yes, sir. I believe at some point, an officer ID'd him. So at that point, I knew who he was.
Okay, and how did you identify him? You stated?
I didn't personally identify him. I believe it came from another officer.
There was a backpack at the scene, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And was that the backpack, or whose backpack was that?
I believed it was the
Objection in
complainant.
terms of, unless I can take him on that, or if he has personal knowledge.
Judge, I just asked whose backpack it was.
All right.
It could be the alleged complainant or somebody else.
You may take the witness on board here, Mr. Cox.
Sir, did you recover a backpack?
Yes, sir.
Oh. Do you, from your own personal knowledge, do you know who the backpack?
Believe given where it was, I
From your own personal knowledge, do you know who the backpack was?
the complainant, sir.
Okay. You had seen that backpack before that day?
No, sir.
No. Somehow, or you testifying that somehow you were able to determine whose backpack was?
Yes, sir.
Oh. Now, you didn't see anybody purchase that backpack, but,
No, sir.
and even if that backpack was it line next to someone, or do you know?
The complainant, sir.
I'm sorry?
The complainant, sir.
Oh. The next question, were you there when the shooting occurred?
No, sir.
How long after the shooting did you arrive?
Within minutes,
Within
minutes,
within minutes or 10 minutes?
within minutes of the call coming out.
Oh,
All right. Any other questions for voir dire, Mr. Cox?
no.
All right, State, you may continue with your line of question.
There's actually, I'm gonna approach the witness.
Yes.
Show him state exhibit number 9. Can you identify that for me?
My initials and badge are on it, and it's my body worn camera footage, I believe.
And is it fair, you've reviewed this, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And does this accurately and fairly represent the scene that day when you arrived?
Yes, sir.
And is this the muted version of your body worn cam?
I believe so, sir.
Okay, you've witnessed this before, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
It has your initials on it, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so is this your body cam?
Yes, sir.
State moves to enter state exhibit number 9, to tender to defense for any objections.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, any objections to State's exhibit number 9?
Not at this.
Okay, then State's exhibit number 9 is admitted without objection.
And Judge, just like previous, state exhibit number 9, we have copied it to our computer for purposes of streaming it easier. For the reading objection from the supporter or the defense.
Defense,
we
any,
made exact copy from our computer.
any objection?
And we'll do the same thing in terms of switching Oh, okay.
All right,
Your Honor, maybe you publish it to the jury.
yes.
Okay, I stopped it at 11:29:31. Officer, I get to sort of go. Hold on. We're gonna go ahead and play it a little bit further. Okay, we stopped it at 11:29:38, officer. And what are we looking at here?
The complainant lying on the sidewalk.
The alleged complainant lying on the sidewalk,
Yes, sir.
and I see something that's sort of round or something to the bottom or to the right of his head. What is that?
I believe it's gonna be his backpack and then some headphones next to that.
What's that? And what color is that black? I'm sorry. What color is the backpack?
Blue,
And then further away from the backpack, sitting on the ground, what is that?
believes to be a pair of headphones.
Headphones? Okay. And this is when you first arrived at the scene. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. We'll go ahead and play. What are you motioning there?
I'm asking for gloves, so I can
And why are you
begin,
motioning for gloves?
to begin the triage. Make sure we can do anything to save them.
What is one officer pulling off of his arm?
They're removing his backpack from his person.
A backpack?
Yes, sir.
What did you just pull out of his pocket?
Believe his phone, possibly a lanyard with some information on it, then his firearm.
And that's when you actually, well, tell me what you did with the firearm there, or tell the jury about it.
I dropped the mag out of the firearm and then pulled the upper receiver back and locked it in place. At that point, I can tell that there was no round in the chamber.
And if there was a round in there, what would have happened to that round when you pulled that slide back?
When the slide was pulled back, the round would have shot out, ejected out of the port.
And so when, I guess, does that make the firearm then safe
Yes,
after
sir.
that?
That would be a safe firearm.
Okay. And those items that you just picked up, where were those items from?
They were from the complainant's person and his pockets.
And those items right there, why do you put them off to the side like that?
For scene integrity, to make sure we have all the items that belong to the complainant together. Whether it's evidence, personal property, we keep them all together.
And in your report, do you, I guess, in a sense, catalog some of the items in that backpack?
I believe it was cataloged by CSI.
Can you look at your report and see? Please, you look at page 3.
Gives a summary, it just doesn't list who was what property. It gives a sum or gives an inventory, but it doesn't tell who was placed in by.
Okay. And now, the body worn cam that you're wearing right now, you're walking, what are you doing?
Trying to get information from the officers that were initially on scene, the first ones that were on scene. Just to try to figure out what witnesses and victims and suspects that we would have for the detectives when they get there.
And at any point, do you talk to individuals that were considered eyewitnesses or witnesses?
Yes, sir.
And did you list some of those individuals in your report?
Yes, sir.
And what are the names of those individuals?
McDowell Michael, he'd be listed as W1. Jason Lexion, W2, and Norton Raymond, he'll be W3.
And did you identify the person that was, I guess what you can call the accused or the shooter in this case?
Yes, in my report, he's listed as S1, Harris Joseph Dale.
And does that have a date of birth for him?
4/27/88.
And is there a SAP number associated with this case that you wrote a report on?
Yes,
What is it?
it's going to be SAPD 2204-2315.
And at any point did you identify the alleged complainant?
Yes, sir. He's listed in my report.
And what did you identify that individual by?
Objection, about the hearsay unless they can establish that it, well, we have to be based on hearsay, which is not personal knowledge.
All right, Status, you want to lay the foundation how the witness was able to allegedly identify, please?
Yes, officer, at any time did you go through the contents of that backpack or what was in the pockets of the alleged complainant? If you can answer the question?
I believe he was identified through some of the identifying information in his backpack.
Well, let's go back to the actual contents. Rewind. And we're gonna stop it at 11:36:34, 35. And go back to. What did you just pull out of his pocket?
Looks like it might have been a little wallet of his.
Okay. All right. Was there another firearm, that's listed in your report?
Yes, sir.
And what type of firearm was that?
Same semi-automatic firearm, handgun.
What was the make of that? What,
Canic 55.
and did you have a serial number associated with that?
Yes, sir. Serial number is going to be Tango 6472 dash Alpha Tango 32286.
That's what did you?
All right, defense.
Also, Silver, when you. How did you first receive information and a notification about this?
E-tone goes off over our radios. E-tone's an alert message or a tone that notifies us that there's a priority response. When it went off, gives a location and what the call is, which happened to be a shooting in progress.
So you get the tone, and I imagine that you got some type of information in terms of what you saw, correct?
Yes, sir.
How much time went by from the time you got that, you see the tone and the time you actually got to the location?
Few minutes, sir, can be specific.
And it's fair to say that when you arrived on that scene, there were other officers already.
Yes, sir.
Correct. And in terms of even how the complainant was positioned, you can't testify to how he was positioned originally, because when you saw him, there were other officers already there. You can't tell whether they moved him or not.
No, sir.
Now, you testified from the video that at one point you go into the complainant's pocket, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I believe you testified that you removed some items, and one item was a car, correct? It's fair to say that if you weren't there when the complainant was located by you in that position, you couldn't tell us if the other officer did anything with reference to moving any items around before you got to the thing.
No, sir.
Now, once you got there, you indicated that you were, I believe you said that somehow you were informed, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that the complainant may have had a weapon.
Yes, sir.
Now, when you first approached the complainant as you like after he was laying there, could you tell just by your observation, by looking at, that he was armed?
No, sir.
Oh. And it's fair to say that being a police officer, you're trained in terms of making observations, especially to make determinations if somebody is armed. I mean, part of your training is when you observe someone, not to say that you can But if there's anything that indicated that somebody was armed, you kind of look out for those types of things. Is it fair to say? No.
Trained to look for
For bulges, those types.
weapons. Yes, sir.
Correct.
Yes, sir.
Oh. So you couldn't see anything in terms of that indicated that he was armed when you saw him. But somehow there was information that gave you some indication that he may have been armed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you recall where that information came from, or who it came
I believe it came from an officer who was gathering information from a witness or
from? And when you arrived actually before the EMT or emergency personnel arrived, correct?
yes, sir.
And it's fair to say that based on your training, that everyone is kind of particular about a scene of a crime, scene, correct? I mean, particularly in terms of you just don't let anybody walking out of a crime, scene, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you also testified that when you retrieved this firearm, one of the first things you did with it is that and you can correct me if I'm wrong, try to make sure that the magazine was out of the weapon, correct? Drop the magazine.
Clear the weapon, sir. Made it safe.
So was that in terms of when you took possession of the weapon, was the first thing that you recall doing was dropping the magazine?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, is there a specific protocol that you do? You come to your weapon and you want to make sure, I would imagine, that the weapon is safe, correct?
Yes, sir.
So is there a protocol that the first thing you want to do, or the first thing you should do as an officer is if that weapon has a magazine, you want to drop the magazine?
For a semi-automatic weapon,
Right.
yes. If you try to rack the round out, it would just chamber another round. So you drop the magazine and then rack the slide back to clear it.
All right, so you want to drop the magazine and then clear the
Chamber.
weapon, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's a different process. Dropping the magazine and clearing it is another process, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And actually with the clearing of the weapon, if there was a say a ramp in the chain, or to clear it, would you do something to cause that particular bullet to eject from the weapon or not? How do you clear it?
So once you drop the magazine and you slide the upper receiver back, that round will eject out of the.
Eject out.
Yes, sir.
So the second thing you want to do after you take the magazine, make sure that you pull the top parts back to clear it, to eject the round. Right?
Yes, sir. And lock it.
Now, if you're looking at you take the magazine out. Now, do you recall, since you took possession of the weapon first, how many rounds were in the magazine? I
Don't recall. I didn't count them. I can look at my report and tell you how many.
Well, you can look at it and see whether or not it refresh your recollection as to how many rounds were in the magazine.
Don't recall, sir.
I'm sorry.
I don't recall.
Well, You have your report with you, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you looked at your report, would that help you, refresh your recollection in terms of how many, photos were in the magazine?
I believe the CSI took the magazine and counted the rounds themselves.
So actually, the answer to my question is, you review your report, you can't tell by your report, correct?
In my report, will in the evidence section, it'll say how many rounds, how many bullet rounds, but
Do you have a recollection in terms of, you had the weapon first, you moved it? Do you have a recollection in terms of making a determination as to how many rounds were in the magazine?
no, sir.
And you did not, you did not write that information in your report, correct?
No, sir.
Now. Can you determine, officer, whether in that particular weapon, whether there was a live round in it by just looking?
No, sir.
So if, say for instance, you're a police officer, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you, they, right? Well, just like the one that you got off the complaint. And that weapon was, say, pointed at you with your direction. Do you try to determine whether there's a live round in the chamber just by looking at it?
No, sir.
Because what do? Do you make an assumption?
Yes, sir.
And what's that assumption?
Subject to speculation.
Well,
Sustained.
well, you're a police officer, you have training.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And in your training, I would imagine there's scenarios that you're taught about in terms of people with weapons, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have training in terms of what you would do if you're an officer in a weapon. Like a handgun would point at you, correct? Your simulation training for that, correct?
Yes, sir.
Subjective relevance.
Sustained.
Okay, so you can't tell whether, just by looking at it, whether there's a whether it's a round in the chamber, correct?
Objection, asked and answered.
Overrule.
Yes, sir. You can't tell.
Oh. This particular weapon. Could you tell whether, just by looking at it, whether there were bullets in it in the magazine?
No, sir.
Now, when you arrived at the location, the complaining witness is on the sidewalk. You're attending to him. Did you do anything like, say, maybe putting a bag or something over his hand, bagging his hand?
I don't do anything with that, sir.
I'm sorry,
I didn't do that, sir.
is there anything significant about, say, bagging someone's hand if you're investigating, say, a shoot?
That's up to the detectives and CSI, sir.
So that's beyond your scope of what you do.
Yes, sir.
when you. Now, there's on this particular weapon, there's a slide, correct? There's up on the top of the weapon, there's some type of device that slides the top of the weapon back.
Yes, sir.
And when you testified that that's when you had that round ejected, was that part of that process?
Around,
Sliding?
So Jeff, the
Well-
mischaracterization of the testimony.
Well,
All right,
I'll rephrase.
All right.
I'll rephrase. You testified that you cleared the weapon, correct?
yes, sir.
Now, you also testified on direct examination that. One second. You also testified on direct examination that because there was not a bullet in the chamber, I guess, or that area of the weapon, that you would have to kind of like rack it, or there may be another term that used for it, to get that bullet to go from the magazine up into the chamber, correct? Is that?
Yes, sir. You'd have to pull the upper receiver back to round a chamber or chamber around.
Okay. And it's fair to say that doesn't take to rack to get that bullet into that chamber. It doesn't take 5 minutes to do that, does it?
No, sir.
Less than a minute,
Objection, speculation.
Overruled.
less than a minute,
Sure. Yes, sir.
okay. Less than 30 seconds,
Yes, sir.
less than 10 seconds.
Yes,
Correct.
sir.
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
maybe about, what, 1 second?
Yes, sir.
Pass witness.
State.
No question, Tom.
All right, is this witness excused or subject to recall?
Subject.
All right, the rule has been invoked. You are only allowed to speak to attorneys for the state or attorneys for the defense. You're not allowed to speak to anyone else. You're not allowed to watch everything. Do you watch anything? Do you understand? All right, you may step down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to stop at this point. We'll be back tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. I have a docket in the morning, and so I don't want you all waiting around. So we'll start at 1:30 p.m. We can go off the record. In this courtroom, you never know what the temperature is going to be. Sometimes it's super cold, but normally it's very hot. But I always say it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. So if you want to bring a jacket, you're more than welcome to bring a jacket. I know that the chairs are hard. We do have some pillows in the back. If you want to bring those pillows out, you can. If you want to bring something for breakfast or for lunch, you're more than welcome to do so in the jury room. I'm sure Deputy Laura has showed you there's a refrigerator back there. There's a microwave and other things. So those are my instructions. Remember, you have heard some evidence in this case. You are not allowed to watch anything about this case. You are not allowed to do any investigation. Everything that you need to know about this case is to come from inside the courtroom. Does everyone understand? All right, thank you. And you will not be meeting here. Deputy Laura will show you where you need to meet, which will be in the jury room. And we can't start unless everyone is here. Okay? All right, yes.
Talk up there for just 1 minute.
No.
I do ask you right here. I voiced this morning that I have a plane with these at 6 in the morning. Can you instruct me on how to?
All right, if you'll wait in the back jury room. All right, everyone, please rise.